First of all, we would like to extend a warm welcome to everyone who is currently connected to participate at this webinar. While we wait for others to connect, I would like to introduce myself, to say a few words about RCE Penang, how we're going to structure this webinar, and also finally introduce our speaker of today, Ann Finlayson, who is now connected from the UK and quite early over there. It's only 6 o'clock in the morning. So my name is Ingrid Mula. I'm a visiting researcher at RCE Penang at the University of Saint Malaysia in the island of Penang in Malaysia, and I will be this webinar facilitator. Next to me, and I'll try to switch the camera, is Mr. Amar Aziz, who is research officer at RCE Penang. But it is also important to mention that just upstairs from this room, there are several colleagues who are connected to this webinar using one single username. So these are Professor Munira Ghazali, who is the RCE Penang coordinator. There's also Ms. Dora Ayub, who is a research officer at RCE Penang. There is Dr. Ivy, who is an RCE Penang fellow and who is chairing a meeting with probably over a dozen local teachers, school managers, and also perhaps university students who are actually involved in an initiative from RCE Penang, which we call Sejahtera Clubs. So this is 8 schools, pioneering schools that we call, that are trying to implement a sustainability club in their schools. So actually they've come together today to listen to Ann's experiences and projects and to perhaps get some inspiration of the type of projects that they can do in their sustainability clubs that they will be implementing very soon. For those who are connected, we would really, really appreciate it if you can use the chat and introduce yourself. So we would really be interested in knowing your name, in knowing what country you are from, and what profession, or if you're a student, what course you are taking. So the chat is on your screen. If you look up, there's a little button which says chat. You can just click there and start writing whenever you want. So before I introduce Ann, let me say a few words about RCE Penang. So RCE Penang is a United Nations University recognized regional center of expertise on education for sustainable development. RCE Penang works with, in partnership with key local but also international stakeholders to bring about change for sustainability, especially at the community level. So an RCE, this is not only RCE Penang, but generally all RCEs in the world, are not physical centers or buildings, but actually they are networks of individuals, of organizations, of groups who are committed to build a more sustainable future through education and learning. So RCE Penang specifically includes partners from the voluntary, from the public, education and business sector. And we bring all these partners together to implement collaborative projects on education for sustainable development. So RCE Penang and also other RCEs are quite unique because they bring people who do not tend to work together usually, but who are critically placed to create local solutions for sustainability challenges. And RCE Penang is hosted by the University of Saint Malaysia, but is also part of a growing global network of RCEs. Actually, there are around 127 RCEs in the world. And the Global RCE Secretariat is based at the United Nations University Institute for the Advanced Study of Sustainability, so UNUIAS, which is based in Tokyo, Japan. So as part of our focus of RCE Penang focus on supporting the school sector to transform education towards sustainability, we're organizing these webinars, which are especially relevant for school managers, school administrators, pre-service and in-service teachers, teacher trainers, government education agencies, and not-for-profit associations that support school development. So as you can see from this PowerPoint slide, we have planned 6 different webinars which will look at 6 different issues. So we are going to look at how to embed education for sustainable development principles in the curriculum. So that's more or less what Ann's going to talk about today. But we're also going to use to explore how to use whole school and systemic approaches to sustainability, how to connect education for sustainable development to key issues like climate change, disaster risk reduction, faith or indigenous knowledge. So we hope that through these online talks, participants will get some new ideas and some inspiration to continue driving innovation in the school curriculum. So I think that we have now given enough time for people to connect. This specific webinar is entitled 10 Top Tips to Embed Sustainability in the School Curriculum and will be led by Ann Finlayson, now connected from the UK. The webinar will finish at around 3 p.m. UTC +8, so that's Malaysian time, so in approximately 1 hour. And we'll talk for 15 minutes. We're going to do a break for some questions and answers. Then she'll talk for another 15 more minutes, and we're going to have the final question and answer session. So please do ask as many questions as you want. You can do that in the chat. So again, the chat is on top of your screen. You just press the button chat, and you can write all your questions, comments, views there. I will collect all your questions, and then in each question and answer session, I'll summarize them to Anne. Also, if you have any problems regarding your connection, please let us know, because we will try to sort them out and help you with this connection. We can use the chat for that. So, and also finally, we hope not to have any big technical issues, but you know how these things go. So if we did, please bear with us for some seconds or perhaps some minutes, because we will try to reestablish the connection. So, okay, we can now perhaps introduce Anne. I'm going to read your biography, Anne, and then I'll pass you the microphone. So Ann Finlayson is the Chief Executive of RCE, which stands for Sustainability and Environmental Education in the UK. Anne has worked in the environmental and education fields for over 30 years. After a stint as a countryside ranger in Scotland, she began traveling the world teaching, facilitating, and consulting in places such as Papua New Guinea, Australia, and Canada. And we have recently learned that she's also lived in Malaysia and Singapore, and perhaps you can say a few words about that in your presentation. She was Head of Education Social Change at WWF UK, and the Commissioner for Education and Capability Building for the Sustainable Development Commission from 2005-2010. And took on the job of revamping CEE, now called RCE, in 2008, and has enjoyed seeing it grow back to national significance as well as sharing her expertise. She's passionate about the role of learning in sustainability and for it to be about real people, real opportunities, and real responsibilities. So thank you very much, Anne, to be with us today. I know that it's really early for you. It's a pleasure that you accepted to be our speaker of today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we'll give you the right to share your PowerPoint. Okay. And you can start whenever you want.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm really delighted to be doing this webinar. We've had nearly 2.5 years of experience of webinars at SEED, and I think we were probably one of the first organizations to do it in the UK, and now lots of people are trying to do webinars, and it's a very environmental way of sharing knowledge and inviting people to come and talk to you. Our last one, we had Sir David King, who is the UK representative to the climate change talks, the COPs, and he was fantastic to listen to. And we had young children, 10, 9 years old, typing in their questions to him. And the biggest one that almost broke my heart was a little girl wrote in and said, will my future be better? And that was a heartbreaker, because that's why we do what we do. And if we don't do it, I think the sad news is that many young people are already worried about their future and the global issues, not just climate, but all of the global issues that they think they're going to face when they reach adulthood. So what I'm going to do is share with you a number of things. Initially, what I'm going to share with you is a slide that's about how to embed sustainability in your school and in your curriculum. I should say I am an ex-teacher, So you will hear me talk quite a lot about teaching and schooling. So I'm hoping you can see my slides now. So we've done quite a lot of work at SEED. So, for example, these two people, Mike and Marika, cycled from one end of the UK to the other end, and during that they went to 35 schools, and they created a film called The UK's Best Sustainable Schools. And a lot of what emerged from that was actually what has emerged from research. And we have now been doing sustainable schools and embedding ESD in schools since the early 90s. So in the UK, we have quite a long tradition of this. It's never become mainstream. It's still on the edge. But there's a lot that I will be able to share with you about that. So here's one of the big questions. What does a sustainable school look like? And that's actually quite an interesting question, because lots of people will have lots of different ideas. And in your context in Malaysia or in the Asia Pacific region, it may look very different from the UK. In fact, I would expect it to, because sustainability has to be locally relevant and derived. So, for example, are you going to have a green roof, and is your school going to be made of wood? Well, when I went to school in Singapore, we had rattan furniture and wood buildings, and we had palm roofs. So this is a very UK-based idea. But I did just learn that in France, I think it was last week, they passed a law to say that all new buildings will have to have a green roof and solar panels to generate electricity. It could be that if you have a playground or an area where the children meet and your students meet, you could fill that up with solar panels and create your own electricity. That seems a bit of a shame, because where would your students and children go during their break times? But the question is, why do schools want to be more sustainable? And here are some good reasons from Jonathan Porritt. And this is based on some research that was done with the National College for School Leadership. And I think this is a really good list. I'm going to read them because these are going to be translated. I wouldn't normally read the PowerPoint bullets, but I will. So Jonathan Porritt, who was the chair of the Sustainable Development Commission, says that, and he's an ex-teacher as well, said that our schools have to be living examples of sustainability practice. You should be trying to achieve self-sufficiency in energy, trying to generate zero waste and zero emissions. Growing and cooking as much food, fresh food as possible if you cater for your students. We know now so much research about bringing the natural world back into the school and into its grounds, but also allowing some of the lessons and trips to go into nature, because we now know how much that is a good idea for not just the well-being, but the learning of young people, and not just learning about nature, they're learning in general. Schools should promote diversity, equality, social cohesion in the school environment, because they're trying to model that and give young people the skills and the capabilities to be able to do that in future life. You should learn how to create an inclusive local and global community, because that's one of the truisms now, that we are all part of a global community. And the learning and teaching through the entire curriculum that reflects and prepares pupils for the challenges of the future. So what we're really talking about here is a whole school approach. It's the campus, the curriculum, and being based in the community. So here are some top tips, and these come from research based on 20 years of schools having a go at this. What have we learned in the UK? First top tip is that you start anywhere. Everyone does. It doesn't matter where you start. It could be a focus could be on healthy living, which could lead to growing your own food, or you could be thinking about quality of life at home or in developing countries. You just have to start anywhere, and it's always best to start with the interest of the teacher and the student. So top tip number 2 is what's called, in facilitation terms, appreciative inquiry. Recognize that you are already working on this in the school. identify the champions, and celebrate your hidden heroes. It's not always about the champions. There will be all sorts of people who have been quietly working away at doing some sustainability work. You could look at your grounds, you could look at your buildings, you could look at the school council if you have an eco council or a school council made up of the students. Those are a fantastic resource and often in the UK have been drivers of sustainability before the teachers and the senior management team. And that actually is what's working in universities in the UK currently. The student unions in universities are driving sustainability in universities rather than the academic staff. How do you purchase things? What do you buy? And what is the chain of those products? Can you always say they're produced in a sustainable way? Does everyone on the journey to creating a product understand sustainability? And that's really important stuff to know. You could look at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation here in the UK. It's been doing a lot of work on the circular economy, and there's a fantastic book called Sense and Sustainability that you can download from the Ellen MacArthur website that I think would be very helpful. You can also look at your teaching and learning. Often that's a bit hidden because as an ex-teacher, you know and I know that what happens is you go into a classroom, the door is closed, and not everyone knows what's going on. So it's really good to bring that out into the open and to look for connections. And then think about your events, your trips, your special weeks, your assemblies and extracurricular activities. The important thing here is map it, make it public, make it accessible for everyone, and then make plans together, because once you can see it, you can start to see where your gaps are and where the connections are and work with the talent and the competencies and the motivations in your school. So top tip number 3, develop your whole school approach. What does that mean? It means, as we've talked about before, you can do the campus, the curriculum, and the community, but also it's talking about an ethos. What are your values? How do you describe to people what your school is all about? And how do the children and the students explain to others what their school is all about? And you could do that as a vision statement, or you can embed it in your school plans, or you can make it the focus of your school curriculum. And those have been all good ways that people have taken a whole school approach. It's very complicated, though. This is a children's picture of what they thought sustainability really meant. And the thing I like in here is it says LOL, lots of lines, rather than lots of love or laugh out loud. There is some confusion about what LOL means. But you began to see that children really do see the connections, and they know that this is a very complicated concept, but it doesn't faze them. They don't mind having complicated concepts. I noticed just now that we've got Asia Pacific in there because we've got Tokyo. I never noticed that before. So top tip number 4, develop a plan for every child's learning for sustainability as they progress through the school. What happens is, if you don't do this, is when I was teaching in Papua New Guinea, we were inspected, and the inspector was outraged because every single class he went to, they were teaching the water cycle. And I think we've probably replaced the water cycle now with climate change. And what we need to know is, and I will give you a link to a way of thinking about this, we need to know what's appropriate at each age, what concepts are appropriate at each age for children to understand, and what activities could they be engaged in to build not just knowledge, but their competencies and their skills, and then create that journey for them as they move through the school. In the UK, we have the Sustainable Schools Initiative and the Sustainable Schools Alliance, which SEED now runs, and that took a theme of care. So, for example, that's very appropriate with your younger pupils. So in students who are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, care is a very important one.